Hi there. Welcome. This is Life After Trauma with Dr. Jan, helping you to take a stand and put an end to all the drama. Just think of me as your second mama. Hi, welcome. I am Dr. Jan, and my channel is all about the trauma and drama of domestic abuse. Did you know that domestic abuse is a dark and silent culture? Yes, it is. That is why people do not talk about domestic abuse. And yet, domestic abuse is pervasive. It is everywhere. I lived 42 years as a victim of domestic abuse, and in all of those years, I never told anyone what I was going through, not in my personal life, not even my own family. I remained silent all those years through the physical violence, the emotional and verbal abuse, plus that psychological mind game called gaslighting. And in all of those years, I never said a word. I suffered in silence. But those days of silence are over. Life after trauma with Dr. Jan is my life story. And we are talking about how I healed and recovered from the trauma and drama of domestic abuse. And we're talking about how I went from victim to victory. I am 85 years old. I was born in 1939, and now I am a successful survivor and overcomer of domestic abuse, not just once, but twice. And I'm still in my right mind, and I don't look like where I've been. But believe me, I've been to hell and back. And the purpose of this channel is one, to shed a bright light on this dark and silent culture. And number two, to encourage, equip, and empower you to heal and recover your life again, because there is life after trauma with Dr. Jan. This is episode 8, and today we're going to talk about a time when I was chased outside into the streets by my abusive husband. And I ran into a so-called safe place, a church filled with a bunch of old, sorry church saints. It was a scary experience, worse than my physically violent husband. But before we get started, I want you to subscribe and like this channel. I want you to hit that subscribe button, and I want you to hit the like button. Help me reach 300,000 plus subscribers. And I want you to grow this channel. Thank you for subscribing and liking. Now, let's get started. I married at the age of 19 in 1959. And I was going through a very, very difficult time in my marriage. And back in the day, in the late 50s and the early 60s, those days were very different from what they are today. There was no help available for a couple or a victim that was in an abusive marriage. Back then, there were no shelters, no safe places. And in criminal justice, the police did not see physical violence in a marriage as a crime, and they would not help the victim. It was very different from today. And so one evening, Vincent and I, with his temperamental and bipolar self, we were having some difficulty. He was in one of his moods, and we got into a very explosive argument. He started pushing me around, shoving me, and physically knocking me around. And I just, people think that victims are always mousy and they don't try to defend themselves. That's not always the truth. I tried to defend myself many times. And so I had had enough of his physical abuse. And I decided to help him stay off of me by giving him a dose of his own medicine. And so I tried my best to knock his head off of his shoulders. And my blow was surprisingly so powerful that down he went on the floor. Boom! Then I knew the consequences of that. And so I turned and I ran out of our apartment. And naturally, when Vincent got up, he began to chase me right on down the street. Now, I could run as fast as FloJo, Elaine Thompson, and Marianne Jones, those three of those fastest Olympic champions. They didn't have a thing on me. I was running like the wind, and I didn't know exactly where I was going or what I was going to do, but I knew I had to get out of that apartment with Vincent, because had he put his hands on me, had he caught me, it would have been terrible. And so I'm running, I'm desperate. I don't know where I'm going. It's beginning to get cold, and still I'm running, and I'm too afraid to even turn to see if Vincent is still chasing me. I'm just running outside in the open. People see me. They see my husband running after me, and nobody does a thing. Back in that day, if you were a victim of domestic abuse, you were just out there on your own. I don't remember how long I ran, but I was running, and all of a sudden, I heard some music, church music. I heard the sound of women's voices, and I looked up, and the music was coming from a small storefront church in Philadelphia. And my heart immediately leaped for joy. And I said to myself, oh my God, it's a church. Someone inside of that church is going to help me. So I rushed inside the church door and I yelled, help me. My husband is trying to hurt me. Please, please help me. As I stood at the door, waiting for someone to help me, but nobody moved. And when I say nobody moved, that's exactly what I meant. And no one in that church moved towards me to help me. You could hear a pin drop. The music stopped playing, the women stopped singing, and no one moved inside that church, moved towards me to kind of console me or put the arm around me, ask me who I was, where did I live. The room, as I said, was filled with about 10 to 15 elderly ladies that looked like missionaries. They looked kind. They looked like seasoned mothers and grandmothers, and they all turned to look at the door when I came in. They looked at me, but they just stared. They just stared like, what? Who are you? And what do you want barging in here like this? No, I'm so naive. I'm standing in this church and I just can't understand why not one of those kind women is coming over towards me. And then I realized what I must have looked like. I thought to myself, I probably looked like I was either on drugs or I'm drunk. My hair was a mess. I've been running all this time. I'm sweaty, looking bad. I'm out of breath. My clothes are all messed up. And so I'm thinking to myself, that's what it is. I ran in this church so quickly, they probably didn't hear me and they don't know why I'm here. And so I cried out to them again, please help me. My husband is trying to hurt me. But those ladies, they just stared at me. They all stood in the middle of the floor and they looked down at me. They stared at me and nobody asked me my name. Nobody asked me how they could help me. They just stood staring at me. They stood with their arms folded across their chests as if to say, now they didn't say it out loud, but I could kind of read their facial expressions, and they were seemingly to say as if, little gal, you've got yourself in some trouble, and that's your little red wagon. Don't think that we are going to help you pull it. You're going to pull it yourself. You made your bed hard, and now you can lie in it by yourself. Don't you dare think that we are going to help you or get involved in your mess. That's your problem, not ours. And those old ladies glared me right to the door. I was so shocked. Tears began to well up in my eyes, and I was in a state of unbelief. I just couldn't believe that these old ladies would not one of them would reach out to me and help me. This was a church, a so-called church for sorry saints. But how wrong I had been. I thought they were missionaries, and I thought that they had compassion, wisdom, and knowledge and experience. I thought that they might have some words of wisdom for me. But how wrong I had been to think that they would help me. And oh my God, I realized that they were fake, that they were phonies. They were not loving and helpful. They were judgmental and critical. I could see how they were watching me, looking me up and down. And I said to myself, if this is what the church is like, I might as well have stayed home and dealt with my crazy husband, that abusive man, and deal with him the best way I could, like I had been doing for the past. So tell me, what would you have done if you were in my situation? I turned back and went out of that door. I could feel their eyes staring at the back of me. And you know what I did? You're right. I went right back to my apartment. I went back to where I had left because I was in danger there. But after experiencing what I felt with those little old saint ladies, I returned home. By the time I got back to our apartment, Vincent was glad to see me. His mood had changed like it always did, and we made up. But that experience of those old women in that so-called church will live in my memory forever. And I promised myself that if God allowed me to live to become an old woman myself, and some young person, whether male or female, woman or young man, and they were in trouble, and they came and asked me to help them, I made a promise that I would help them, whether I'm inside of the church or out of the church. And that is exactly what I'm trying to do now with my channel, Life After Trauma with Dr. Jan. And that's really the end of my episode. It made an impact on me, and I will never forget it. But before we end episode 8, let me ask you a question. Tell me this. What would you have done if you had been me back in 1959? Because I really want to know. What would you have done differently from me? And how would you have handled Vincent? And how would you have handled that situation with those elderly women in that church? What would you have changed? What would you have done like me? And I would like for you to write your comments below because I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. But all I want to say and end this with is, don't judge me. Because in reality, back then you really don't know what you would have done. So don't criticize me, don't judge me, and don't judge anybody. Not until you have walked at least a mile in their sneakers. Also, remember to subscribe and like and grow this channel, Life After Trauma with Dr. Jan. Also, I want you to click on my website. I do have a website, and it's www.jnb for Jan Newell-Bird, just jnbministries.org. And when you get to my website, you will see that I have an ebook, and that ebook is entitled Testimony of a Kept Woman, From Misery to Ministry Instead of the State Penitentiary. This ebook is a memoir. It is my life story. It's short, it's easy to read, and it tells you what I went through those 42 years. It talks about the physical violence, the emotional and verbal abuse, plus the gaslighting. Also, check out my digital curriculum. It's below on my website, and it's called 7 Power Keys: How to Heal and Recover from the Trauma and Drama of Domestic Abuse. I spell out in this digital curriculum the specific keys and the strategies that helped me to heal and recover. Well, this is Life After Trauma with Dr. Jan, and I want to thank you for subscribing and liking my channel. And until the next time, God bless you.